I tell you, it's one of those stories where people you respect and like could come across on two different sides of it, opposite of you, and it doesn't mean that they're dumb and you get it. This is so inconclusive. And the thing that I said immediately when watching it, and I still don't know why CPD released the tape, but by doing so, it allowed all of us to gather our own opinions and then make those judgments on those opinions. I said when I saw it, it's pretty clear to me why they couldn't press charges, because the video is not conclusive enough to warrant, and that's the type of thing that probably happens every night in every club in this town. And there's no way that it warranted a criminal. That video alone is, without testimony, that video alone, and without physical harm, that video alone does not warrant anything. And so CPD did the right thing here. I don't know why the video got out. It did. And in doing so, it lets us all have an opinion on it. As I've had 24 hours or almost to digest it, I think Urban got the penalty pretty good. I think you're talking about a quarter of a football season. I think that's a big message that can be sent. I think there will be other things that happen behind the scenes. It certainly takes Carlos Hyde out of the running of being a captain. That's out of the call. There's not getting that. Not going to be a leader. That's stuff that matters down the line. That's not going to happen. It's possible that he'll never be a starter again. Entirely possible. There's a ton of talent behind him. Let's remember that going into last year, he wasn't the starter. So it's possible that he won't be the starter again. This is a severe penalty to Carlos Hyde for making a decision that did not warrant legal action. I'll say this furthermore. Then this was the standard rule at Florida State. Standard rule. And you could scoff and say, well, Florida State, they are outlaws, whatever. And maybe they have that reputation. Maybe some of it's deserved. At Florida State, you were suspended from the team the whole time Bobby was there. You were suspended from the team as long as there was an investigation into you. Whenever those charges were either dropped or you were proven innocent, you were fully reinstated to the team without separate penalty from the team. So by that rule, at Florida State, Carlos Hyde would start game one. Now, the video doesn't make that possible in this case because we've all seen it. But that's the way they roll down there. So this guy, Carlos Hyde, is getting a three-game penalty without any charges. So that's just the facts of the case.
Well, that's because the video exists.
Absolutely.
The reality
is,
Beau, you don't have to get condescending here.
No, I'm not. I just
giving you my opinion. I just let you talk for 6-7 minutes or whatever.
No, I wasn't being condescending. Right. You made it seem like I didn't say that the video, and I said the reason that's in play is because the video's out there.
Well, you took it that way. I didn't imply it that way. I'm just telling you that the reality is, for every incident going forward, there most likely will not be surveillance footage. So the fact that there's no footage in this case probably would mean there'd be no game suspension because of no charges. So the bottom line is the videotape does exist, and it shows his emotion and immaturity and just stupid behavior and intentional behavior and somewhat reckless. That's why he deserved it. There are people out there that will say he didn't deserve to get a suspension, but they're only basing it on the fact that they believe he didn't cause physical harm. That's the bottom line for me, is that it's not about what he did or didn't cause. The videotape proves that he did all the things that I mentioned. So I do agree with you that the penalty does fit the crime, in that going forward, sending a message to your team is that you have a code set and enforced, because you can't just have it painted on the walls and not do something about it. And that's where Urban Meyer was, and I thought he handled it pretty well. He did wait for the legal process, and I think that was appropriate. Let me ask you this. If the videotape doesn't exist, is he suspended?
Impossible for me to know. I'm not in Urban Meyer's head. I'm not going to hypothesize what's in his head. Impossible for me to know.
I bet it's less than 3.
I don't know. I'm not going to put myself in that position. Maybe he talks to the girl. Maybe he talks to Carlos. Maybe he makes his own. It's hard to say.
Well, it's there, and that's what happened. So going forward, if you say that he set a precedent for this, well, it's going to be tough, because then there'd have to be surveillance footage every single time. So it wasn't that way, and that's the way it is. So I agree with you that the 25% of the regular season is big in his development, like you said. It's big in coaching, and it's even bigger in the eyes of the staff. That's really where this goes, because Urban Meyer and his staff, I think, do try to be very challenging to this kid. That's the one thing that I've learned about the fact that everything over there is so competitive and earned, and the fact that now he has dropped himself, I agree with you. It's one of these guys that can take the baton and run with it. And if I'm one of those guys, I believe that I'm never giving this job up.
That might be the way it plays out. 821-9710 is the phone number. Paul, you're on. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey,
Paul,
guys.
you're up, buddy. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey, I told my buddies last week that Urban's going to have his cake and eat it too, because he's going to look like he's some real big disciplinarian. But these 3 games are not going to hurt the Buckeyes. Carlos Hyde was probably only going to play a half in 2 of those games, probably 3, maybe the whole game against Cal. This isn't hurting Hyde. It's not hurting the Buckeyes. So if Urban really, really, really meant about respect women, he'd have suspended him for 5 or 6 games. So he's getting off easy. Both guys are getting off easy. Urban, go ahead.
No, I thought you were referring to Brett. Oh, boy, we have had a terrible connection there, Paul. All right. I mean, that's Paul's opinion on that thing. Jennifer, you're on the fan. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Being a woman myself, I know the retaliation wasn't proper, but if, someone hit me, regardless of a woman or a man, I'd hit him back. And, I see the suspension as being way too much, but because there was no charges pressed, anything like that. But if somebody hits me, I'm going to hit them back. And I think that goes for men and women. And I don't think it looked like a tap. I mean, he just reached over and kind of smacked her back and walked away. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it should have been just black and white. There was no charges pressed, so let it go.
Jennifer, thanks for the call.
Interesting reaction to that, because I think that's where a lot of people go. And that's why I said earlier that I don't think you can judge this. I think you can judge it based on what you saw and what punishment you would deem appropriate. But the issue here, it's not just the punishment. It's Urban Meyer trying to enforce a code, send a message, and set a precedent of some kind of what he wants in his football player. That's it. I said yesterday that the punishment may be harsher than what you think is on that video. But it's not just that. It's all rolled into one. It's not just saying, well, I want to be fair to Carlos Hyde. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Urban wants to be just, hey, I want to be fair to Carlos Hyde. I want to be fair to the situation. He's also using it like a parent. What can I do to set a deterrent for other guys that may go to clubs and get themselves in a same predicament?
Oh, and there's lots of things he can do that we'll never see that would prove that. He could treat Carlos Hyde like a dog all season long and never let him out of the doghouse all season long. That would deter that to the guys that are currently on the team just as much as suspending him for a game again.
Very possible.
So, I mean, that's the other thing that's out there with this thing. Urban Meyer was asked about this. He was on ESPN today. He was asked first about this on SportsCenter. Hit it, Maddie.
I spoke with actually the police afterwards, and they said an average, just not an average, but a normal person, there's nothing there. There's no charges to be filed. However, our guys, when I saw the video, he needs to walk away from that situation, and we're taught over and over and over again to get out of that situation. That's not, you're a high-profile guy, you represent an incredible institution, you have, that's nothing you need to be part of. Get out of there. So that's why he was suspended.
There's Urban Meyer's answer to it. We'll continue to just have this discussion. We're going to have Urban Meyer's interview with Colin Cowherd as well. Have the discussion with you. If you're on hold, we'll try to get to you. Bishop and Rothman, 97.1 The Fan.